I remember the moment I realized something had to change. I was sitting in my office after a long strategy session with my senior team. We'd spent hours discussing where we needed to go as an organization. And I walked out that day feeling clear, energized, and confident that we were aligned and on the right path. 3 weeks later, I'm checking in on the progress. We're having our update meeting, the first one since that session. And what was being built looked nothing like what I thought we had agreed to, what was so clear in my mind. And that was the first time it hit me. And, I think I had to reflect on this later to get real understanding. But this was the first time that the clarity that was in my head wasn't making it into their execution. And if I'm being honest with myself, and I was at that time, I didn't have the frameworks or the knowledge to change that. So today I want to talk about the inflection point, the moment where you recognize that the leadership skills, talents, capabilities, the things that you've done to this point that got you here won't get you to where you need to go. And it's not because you're failing, and it's not because you're not capable. It's because the next level requires a different version of you. And if you've ever felt that tension, that angst between where you are and where you know you could be, this episode might help you see what's really happening, what needs to be unlocked. So let's walk through what this inflection point actually looks like and how to know if you're experiencing it right now. And again, if I'm being honest, these are moments of inflection, moments of growth that I've experienced many, many times in my career. And every leader I have worked with has experienced these things. It's a rebirth. It's a resetting of where you are so that you can be a better, more capable, more competent, more impactful version of yourself. So here's the dangerous middle ground that most leaders find themselves in. You're successful enough that everything looks fine from the outside. Your organization is functioning. You're hitting most of your targets. Your team respects you. But here's what's happening behind the scenes. And this is what you're navigating your attention and stage of growth around. There's 3 warning signs that you can kind of tap into, you can identify that will allow you to say, hey, there's a difference between what's going on the outside and what I'm feeling on the inside, what I know is possible inside. So first is a vision execution gap. You have absolute clarity in your head about where you're going. You can see the next milestone. You know what success looks like. You know vividly, crystal clear where you're going. But when you look at your team's execution, there's a gap. They're not executing the vision that you're carrying in your head because they don't have the clarity you have. And I call this the vision execution gap. It's the first warning sign that we're probably at an inflection point. We're at a need to step forward in our own leadership. The second warning sign is when you've become the bottleneck, when everything ends up on your desk. You're the problem solver for every major decision in the organization. And while that feels really good, it feels like good leadership in the moment, it's actually crushing your organization's ability to scale. You're in a reactive state instead of a proactive state. In our work with clients, we talk all the time about the difference between being on your heels and being balanced forward on the balls of your feet. You can see it in professional sports. You can see it in everything. Like if a quarterback's throwing off his heel, what happens? It gets an interception. But when they're moving forward, when the balls are your feet, you can adjust, you can parry, you can move, you can have energy for the forward. And that's the second warning sign, is when you're becoming the bottleneck, when everything is coming at you, you're forced to be on your heels and you're not on the balls of your feet. And warning sign number 3 is when you have started to hit your capability ceiling. And here is the single hardest truth to admit. Your skills, your talents, and your capabilities have been good enough to get you where you are. But to get to that next level, to do that next thing that your organization needs, you have to grow and do better. You have to improve and enhance yourself to get across the goal line. If you're experiencing even one of these, you're at an inflection point. Let me tell you how I discovered this and recognized it in my own leadership journey. So 4 years after joining AAA and moving their call center from Charlotte to Roanoke Rapids, I was promoted to the vice president of member services. And this was one of those career inflection points. We were delivering results. The call center transition had been incredibly successful. My team was performing. We had a great culture that was really focused on delivering exceptional service for our members. But now I had to learn to lead senior leaders, division heads, directors, business unit owners. We were doing good work, but I kept having this nagging feeling that we were operating 60% of our potential. And this popped out to me because I was in a strategy session with my senior team. And I was trying to explain for the third time what I wanted us to accomplish in the next quarter. And I could see it in their eyes. They heard my words, but they weren't getting my vision. The clarity I had in my head wasn't translating. And I can remember this. This is a very vivid memory. I remember that night asking myself a question. Do I have the skills, talents, and capabilities to be that next level leader, the one that my organization deserves, demands, and truly needs? And it wasn't an insecurity. It was an aha that I needed to grow. And the honest answer was no, not yet. I had been the right leader for the first 4 years, and the call center transformation and installing culture and doing all these other things. But leading other senior leaders, that required a different version of me, a more systematic version, a version that could install frameworks and forward thinking and spend more time on the balls of my feet than on my heels. This was a version of myself that could install and instill vision into others, operating systems, frameworks, instead of just solving problems with hustle and intuition. And those aren't bad. We have to do those. But the next level was going to require more. And that's when I made the decision I needed to invest in my own transformation, not because I was failing, but because staying where I was meant that my organization would stay there too. And here's what I learned. The right program at the wrong time is the wrong program, but the right program at the right inflection point, that's when transformation really happens. I had completed my MBA at this point and I loved it. It was great knowledge, but I needed to elevate my thinking and approach from a leadership perspective, not just a context, not just a book knowledge, not just a philosophical perspective. So I took a course on change management for the C-suite at Wharton, and it opened my eyes to the nuances of change I hadn't seen before. But more importantly, it put me in a room with leaders who were light years ahead of me. These were extremely successful, accomplished, growth-oriented individuals. They were, by all measures, light years ahead of me. But they were also trying to grow, and they were trying to learn, and they were focused on improving their craft. And what I learned in that program, the inflection point that I gained, wasn't just the knowledge about how to manage change at an organizational level. What I really learned was that in order to grow, I was going to constantly be on a journey of growth and change. I needed to be like the other leaders in that room, investing time and effort and energy into myself so that I could be a better version of myself for my team. So the question goes back to, how do you know if you're at an inflection point? Let me give you a framework of thinking that'll help you just distill this. And if you've listened to me for any length of time, you know that I like to take complicated things and try to distill them via a framework so that we can focus our thinking on what's most important. We can dispense with all the stuff that clouds our judgment and really elevate the most important things. And for this particular framework, I've called this a leadership growth readiness assessment. And it's simple diagnostic questions that tell you if you're ready for the transformation, the type of things that we do with our Vision to Victory programs, or the other elements that will help you decide, I need to go and grow so that I can lead more impactfully. So there's 3 simple questions, but they take some deep introspection and some hard work to really go, maybe I need to change. Question number 1, Do you have clarity on your next milestone? And I don't mean vague aspirations. I don't mean goals, specific clarity. Can you articulate exactly where your organization needs to be in the next 12 to 24 months? If yes, move on to question 2. But if no, there's some clarity work that's needed before you go to acceleration. And I think that that's one of the things that's worth taking a moment to think about here. Before we try to accelerate, we must have clarity on what we're trying to build. Otherwise, we run the risk of going really fast in the wrong direction. Question number 2. Are your current systems creating or constraining growth? Look at your delegation protocols. Look at your accountability frameworks. Look at how work flows through your organization. Is it all flowing through you? How is it flowing out and creating the results that you want? Are these systems designed for where you're going? They're aligned to your vision, or are they artifacts of where you have been? As I tell leaders all the time, we have to be thinking constantly, do we have the right people? Do we have the right people on the bus in the right seats? Have I installed the right systems and frameworks around them? If we don't have the right systems, we can't create growth. We're only constraining it. We're limiting our capability. And that's on us. We're the leader. We are the architects of that future. And question number 3, do you have the ability to honestly assess your own capability gap? This is the hardest question because it requires brutal honesty. It requires looking in the mirror and asking yourself, do I have the skills, the talents, and the capabilities to be the next level leader that my organization deserves and demands? Not, am I competent? I mean, you're already competent. You know that. You've been successful. We're not talking about unsuccessful folks here. The question is, are you equipped for what comes next? And that's why I had this as question 3. Do I have clarity on my vision? Do I have the right systems and processes to support that? And am I ready to lead at the next level? If you answered yes to all 3 of these questions, I mean, you have clarity. You've recognized that your systems or processes are limiting or constraining growth, and you recognize your own capability gap, your own need to inflect forward, then yes, you're at an inflection point. And if you answered no to any of them, that's totally okay. It means you have foundational work to do before acceleration makes sense, especially around vision. And knowing that is actually a very valuable lesson of leadership self-awareness. Like being able to answer these questions honestly, thoughtfully, and with articulation is really important. So let me show you what it looks like in a real leader's journey, someone we've worked with. So I'm thinking of a client, let's call him Mark, who came to us about 6 to 9 months ago. Mark was leading a professional services firm. He had a very strong focus on what he wanted to accomplish. His vision was crystal clear, but the organization was scaling past the capabilities of some of the leaders on his team, and he was picking up all the slack. It was all ending up on his plate. And so when we walk through these questions, when we walk through this framework, here's what Mark discovered. Question number 1, yes, he had a crystal clear vision for where the organization needed to go. He even had deep thinking on how it needed to get there, but he was struggling with going, I don't know what to do next. I don't have time to work on this. Question number 2, no, his systems weren't ready. His systems were designed for the previous stage of growth. And some of the team members were struggling to keep pace. They didn't know how to close the gap between Mark's vision and what they were capable of. And question number 3, yes, he admitted that change was necessary. It was going to be required, both in his leadership approach and in how he developed his team. And the outcome was that he recognized he was at an inflection point. He had the vision and the self-awareness, but his systems hadn't evolved with the organization's growth. And he was becoming the bottleneck by compensating for team capability gaps instead of addressing them systematically. And so Mark joined our Vision to Victory program. And 12 weeks later, he had installed new delegation protocols, built development pathways for his team, and completely transformed how he showed up as a leader. Now, some team members rose to the challenge and they grew. Others chose to step aside, to go into roles that fit them more effectively. but the organization could finally scale without Mark carrying everything. But here's the key. Mark didn't need motivation. He didn't need more vision. He needed systematic transformation at the exact moment he was ready for it. So what do you do with this information? What do you do with these questions? Here's your toolbox takeaway for today. The right program at the right time is rocket fuel. The question isn't, can I afford this? Do I have the time? The real question is, can I afford to wait? What am I putting at risk by not stepping forward into my own leadership gaps and installing systems that address these questions? If you're at that inflection point, if you have clarity, you recognize that there's a systems gap, and you're honest about your own leadership capability gap, waiting doesn't make you more ready. It just makes you more stuck. The time becomes a sunk cost. But if you're not at that inflection point yet, that's okay. Do the foundational work. Get the necessary clarity, build self-awareness. And when you hit that moment of time that says, I need to up level in order to lead more impactfully, you'll know. So here's what I want you to do next. If these three questions resonate with you, if you recognize in yourself that you might be at an inflection point, I'd encourage you to go to leadershipgapassessment.com and take our simple 9-question diagnostic that will show you exactly where you are right now. Are you a bottleneck leader carrying everything on your shoulders? Are you a vision drifter, someone who has a lot of drive, but not a clear vision, not a clear map? Are you that isolated operator who's leading without the support that you need? Or are you an unlocked leader ready to scale to the next level? The assessment will take you 2 to 3 minutes, and you'll get some immediate clarity on your leadership gap and what you can do next. And if what I've shared resonates with you, if you think you're at an inflection point and you'd like to talk about it, I'd invite you to go to arcusgroup.com and just book a complimentary clarity call. I'd love to talk with you about it and understand, give you some insights, give you some value. It's completely free, totally complimentary, but it's really designed to help you navigate your tensions, your challenges, and prepare for your next level of growth. Remember, your organization's ceiling is your ceiling, and recognizing this is the first step to breaking through. Hey, before you go, if this episode helped you see leadership differently, I have 3 personal requests. First, and this is the most important one, share this with one leader who needs it. Think of someone in your network who's frustrated with their team's execution or is trying to scale their own impact. Copy this episode link right now and text them, hey, I just listened to this episode and I think you'll get real value from it. That simple act of sharing, that is servant leadership in action. Second, subscribe to Leadership Unlocked. Whether you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or your favorite podcast player, just hit subscribe or the follow button. That way you won't miss the next episode, and it helps us reach more leaders like you. And third, if you're willing, this would be a huge help for us. Leave a 5-star rating and write a quick review. I know it takes 60 seconds of your time, but here's what it does. It helps other leaders discover the show. Every rating, every review, it's how we expand our impact together. So those 3 things, share with a friend, subscribe, leave a review. I'm deeply appreciative, and that would give us so much help. Thanks for being part of the Leadership Unlocked community. Now go create some clarity for others.